Have you ever had a dreams that you had you
Welcome to Stronger Than the Rest, hosted by Juan R., the podcast where we celebrate resilience, determination, and the human spirit. Each episode, we dive into inspiring stories of individuals who have overcome challenges and emerged stronger than ever. Join us on this journey of empowerment and motivation as we discover what it truly means to be stronger than the rest. Let's start this episode with a bang.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Stronger Than the Rest. Thank you for joining me. This is the podcast designed to motivate, celebrate, and elevate people who are dealing with life's challenges. And boy, do we have a show and a topic for you today. Something that has been, I guess, in the midst for a long time, many moons, many years. Today, we'll be talking about overcoming sibling rivalry and sibling hurt. And who better than to talk about that with than a guy that I've known all my life? My big brother, Jose Rodriguez Jr., is in the house with us, everybody. Jose, tell us how you're doing today.
Hello, everyone. I'm doing great. Glad to be on the show.
Awesome. We are glad to have you on the show. You are definitely a friend of the show. I will say, our listeners know already that you have been through several different health challenges. Tell us how that's going for you.
The best way I can explain it is it's a blessing. It's more than a blessing. It's a second chance at life.
A second chance at life.
Yes.
Man, tell me about that.
Well, I mean, I've been overweight my entire life. And my first wife, she tried to get me to do something about it. And I just wasn't in the great state of mind to even care. Having children, having a family, my main focus was to either provide or, work myself into the ground. So it was a little bit of a challenge being overweight, and that brought on other issues as far as diabetes. It brought on high blood pressure. It brought on cholesterol, the stress levels. It was just a number of things, a number of challenges. And my main focus on all of that was just basically my family.
Providing
for my family.
Yeah. To hear that is huge. So, where are you at today with it? Tell us about the most recent challenge and what's going on with that.
Well, I had an amputation 3/11 of this year, and I made the decision probably a year prior to the date of the surgery. And as usual, a number of obstacles surfaced. I had issues with my mom. I had to make sure that, her situation was secured. And I had to put the surgery off a number of times, which is basically the story of my life, putting everybody else's before mine. But when I finally did have the surgery, not only was it a stress reliever, it was, I want to say a second chance, a second awakening. The first surgery that I had was the bariatric surgery. And I went from 480, close to 500 pounds, down to 285. Then my health started getting better, but the damage had already been done.
Mm-hmm.
I had nerve damage. I had bone damage. I had It was just a number of things. I had bad feet. I had bad knees. I've been broke up in several accidents. So it was just a number of things that occurred that I just kept putting off, putting off, putting off, putting off. And then I finally had the surgery. Amazingly enough, I had the surgery 311. 322, I walked into my niece's wedding because I refused to be in a walker. I refused to be in a wheelchair. The doctor said it wasn't possible, but God made it possible.
Yeah, yeah. So let me give you guys a little bit of background here. What he's not telling you is that obesity runs in our family on my mother's side. Um, my mother was obese. My aunts were obese. I have uncles that were obese. My grandmother was obese. And it runs in our family. And so when you're looking at that, it looks normal, right? It looks like there's nothing wrong with it, but it slowly affects you and slowly kills you. Um, and another thing that he's not telling you is that just a couple of months after having his leg amputated, he actually participated in his first 5K. Tell us about that.
Well, that I contribute all that to my granddaughter. She is amazing. She has done so many different things. She's an overcomer as well. Uh, she's in a split home. Her dad is in one state, her mom is in another. And she sees her dad. He's in her life, which is a great thing. And she sees her mom. You know, her mom is a provider. She has siblings that she has to raise, which is common in most black families where the oldest child assumes the responsibility of parenting at an early age.
That's right.
So, to help her, she is with a group called Girls on the Run. And I try to teach her things like financial responsibility. I tried to teach her things like, you know, providing at an early age, which, sad to say, our culture does not do. It does not prepare us at an early age. Every other culture but the black culture raises their families to participate as a unit, not as individuals. And I just decided, and it was a late decision, but I decided in my life that I would raise my family as a unit. So
Wow.
I contribute all of that to her. And because I had the amputation, my saying my entire life, and this came from my dad and my mom, that there's nothing you cannot do.
That's right.
There's nothing you cannot do, and God has the last say.
That's right.
And because I was raised in a church and raised with that type of mentality, I pushed that mentality into my children and my grandchildren. And to let them know that if there's any shape, form, or fashion that it can be done, being a Rodriguez, it will be done.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No doubt. No doubt. No doubt. Well, I want you to go ahead and give my grand niece, my great niece, a shout out.
Her name is Skylar Allen. She's with Girls on the Run. She's also a Girl Scout. She also makes T-shirts and a number of other things. I teach them how to get money early. I teach them responsibilities early. I teach them how to do body and fender work. I teach them how to take care of their home, maintain their home, so they can provide. If you teach them how to fish, they can feed their family. If you give them fish, they can only eat for a day.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So shout out to Skylar, my grandniece, great niece, doing big things already in the early age. And there was something that you said during that really was a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about today. Um, you mentioned that from an early age, it's expected normally in a minority household for the older children to take care of the younger children or participate in raising those children. In our household, you were the oldest brother. And
Correct.
for a long time, it was just you and me.
Yep.
And then came our younger brother, Troy, and you participated in raising both of us. I remember having to walk home from school for you, the one with the key, to open the door to get us in the house after school.
Generation X, latchkey kids.
That's right. That's right. So tell me, how was it participating in raising me? How was I? What kind of kid was I?
Well,
And be honest.
it's, it's amazing. This is actually shocking because we've never talked about this. We've never thought about talking about it, and I believe this platform that you're on. I believe this is a great time to do so. Coming up, you were, like most children, rebellious to your older siblings. And that's only because the oldest child is told by the adult to do such and such, and it follows a chain of command. Being the younger child, in your situation, the middle child,
Mm-hmm.
that is instant rebellion, instantaneous,
100%.
100%. So, because that is the way it is, you have to sort of kind of become creative. I guess that's what makes the oldest the smartest. I don't want to say the smartest, but the most unique. Because he has to become creative enough to keep the siblings in fashion, in line, because he's going to be the first in line to get the whooping after the sibling.
And let's get it straight right now. There was some whoopings.
Oh, there were plenty whoopings.
There was plenty whoopings.
There were whoopings for what you're gonna get, what you did last week, or what you're gonna do next week.
That's right. That's right. And so I remember coming up. In my mind, it wasn't rebelling. It was more, well, who is he to tell me? Right?
That's a good
Because
way to put it.
so I'm gonna put it out there. We're a year and 9 months apart, right? 1 year, 9 months. I would count the days. I think it's like 5 days. 1 year, 9 months, 5 days apart. And although he was always bigger than me, I put up a fight. I put up a fight every time. Because I figured that we were equals. You know, if I was in the third grade, he was in the fourth grade. So he was only, in my eyes, just a little bit older than me. And so for me, I didn't look at it as rebelling. I kind of looked at it as, you know, as we were equals. Now, looking back now, of course, definitely I was I was very rebellious. There was no way that I was doing what you would tell me to do. There was just no way. As a matter of fact, I think in most cases I did the very opposite.
But that also made you the person you are today.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Here's the funny part to me is that at a young age, I pushed against the grain. But somewhere along the way, I decided to roll with the grain. And you've pushed against the grain all your life.
Yeah, definitely.
So it somewhere there was, I guess, a change of course for me that said, I'm no longer going to be rebellious. I'm going to roll with the grain. And I think for me, that was very pivotal in our relationship because at that point we became polar opposites.
Not opposites. Not opposites. We became individuals,
Yeah.
not opposites. Because our values are still the same. We just obtain our goals differently.
Elaborate on that.
Well, I've always seen you as the individual who can talk and counsel your way through a situation. I'm a little bit more hands-on.
Is that what you want to call it?
Well, that's the nice way to put it. So sometimes, and it took me years. It took me years to, I'm not going to say break that cycle, but to learn how to manage that cycle. You know, because I teach my children and my grandchildren that there's a time and a place.
For everything.
For everything. There's no reason that physical conflict should occur unless directly provoked. And sometimes it's not easy to avoid. For me, it was never easy to avoid. I wasn't the good-looking kid. I was always the fat kid. I was always the do-it-my-way kid. So confrontation was front row for me. You know,
Yeah.
So it didn't matter to me if I fit in because at an early age I learned how to make my own lane. So you can follow me or you can fall off. So that I just gave my children and grandchildren an inside track to not having low self-esteem for self.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it working? For majority of them, yes. For some of them, no. Some of them they're not confrontational. It's just not, regardless of the bloodline, regardless of who they're raised by, some people are not confrontational. Everybody's capable.
Yeah.
But some people are just not confrontational. And to add a little bit of clarity to that, confrontation doesn't always have to be physical because some people are mentally confrontational. That's where you get toxicity from. So because you have that level of confrontation, your toxicity levels are extremely high.
Right.
Some people can cut you like a knife with their mouth.
Yeah.
Some people can physically hurt you and break you. But your mental your mental, whether it be incoming or outgoing, has to be strong enough to withstand coming and going. When you were younger, you were not a physical person.
No.
You were not. And once provoked, you ride with the best. But prior to that, you would try to speak understanding into the situation. For me, there was no understanding. If you came and got me to fight, we fighting. If you came and got me to handle business, that's what we was handling with some business. Whatever the outcome was, I was all for it. And now that I'm older, I try to teach my grandchildren especially how to maintain that and how to monitor it. Because the police these days, zero tolerance. They have no issues with murdering.
That's right.
None. So when we were coming up, it was a little bit more hands-on. Now they fear for their lives. And that's their scapegoat.
Yeah. So you mentioned toxicity and mental, and how that could, of course, cause issues. I look back at our relationship and I see a period in time where there was toxicity.
Okay.
Do you see that same situation?
Well, it's funny. Everybody's level of toxicity is different.
Yeah.
And because I've always pushed against the grain, some of the things that I might have said, the reactions that I might have done, they weren't to intensify pain or to deliver pain. It was to get you to crawl out of a shell.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it was toxic. It was toxic, and I'm sure it was mental. I'm sure it was mental. Because me growing up being the fat kid and you being the pretty boy, that was a mental thing. But once again, I had my lane, you had your lane.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that when I look back, as close in age as we were, we never really hung out. Like I knew my brother from home, but I didn't really know my brother from hanging out. And the times that we did, it's because Ma or Daddy forced you to take me with you.
My lifestyle was not, I'm going to say one I'm not proud of, and I'm grateful that you did not hang out. I'm grateful. I don't know. I mean, I really can't express any other way to say it. The things that I've done, the places that I've been, the things that I've had to do to people. I'm just grateful you never had to witness any of that. And my goal coming up was to make sure that you did not follow my footsteps. And same thing with Troy. Same exact thing with Troy. I never wanted either one of you to be gang affiliated. I never wanted either one of you to be in the street life. And it's not a glorified life. It's not a great place to be. It's just not. My kids, I pray every day that my kids don't catch any of the sins that I've done.
Yeah.
Now, there are a lot of people that know my children, and my children go places. They're in different states right now, and it doesn't matter where they go. Somebody knows me where they are. And for them growing up, that was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Why are these people watching us? Why are these people around us? How do these people know us? And it was just me protecting my family.
Yeah. No, I think that, and I'm going to go back a couple sentences here where you were saying that you didn't want for myself or for Troy to follow your footsteps. But I think that in not knowing what you were dealing with, we each found our own way there um, without that guidance. I
Well,
mean, there was a point in time when, under the cover of night, the streets were there for me.
okay.
And, you know, there's not a lot of people that know, but, you know, in the darkness, there were demons that, and I can't speak for Troy, I'll speak for myself, but there were demons that I had and had to deal with um, under the cover of night so that, I could provide or, I could do for myself, and I think that had I had that guidance into it, because I think it was almost inevitable in the time that we grew up. I think that not a single person um, that grew up in our neighborhood or in our era in our neighborhood was able to elude um, completely that lifestyle.
I'm going to beg to differ. And I'm only going to say that based upon times now.
Mm-hmm.
That statement for times now is valid. It's 110%
Mm-hmm.
valid. Then you could kind of slip through the cracks because people knew of one sibling and they knew not to touch the next sibling. So it was a little different. I mean, growing up, we come from a large family, majority boys, and you knew that we all lived not far from one another.
That's right.
And coming up, if you touched one, you had to deal with all.
That's right.
So whether we were affiliated with the street or not, we were also considered our own gang.
Yeah.
So people knew what lines to cross. People knew that, if this gets back to such and such, it's going to be a problem. So, I never ever want. I don't want the streets for my kids. But so sad to say, your kids are an olive branch of you.
That's right.
So my children, and I'm only speaking from my personal experience, my children are a different breed of hustler. My children are a different breed of street. The benefit to them being the way they are now is they knew the way I was then.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that they deal with now, people know me from then. Which gives them a shield, but it also puts a target on their back.
Right. Right.
So,
I agree.
So it's a double-edged sword. It doesn't matter. It never matters what your intentions are, good or bad. It doesn't matter if you intend never to hurt a soul in your life. If an individual crosses that line, every man, woman, and child on this earth is capable.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they're capable.
Yeah. So let's talk about some situations, tough situations that you and I have faced. Um, I remember a night or a weekend traveling to Chicago, sitting at our father's house, and getting into a heated discussion with you to the point where we stepped outside. Do you remember that night?
Was it a couple of years ago? Well, it was in
Yeah.
Country Club Hills, or
Yep. Uh huh.
yeah. I remember it.
Give me your version of what happened.
Well, my version of what happened was we had a disagreement, and things were said, lines were crossed, and once again, I'm a little bit more hands on. And I replied to you, my reply to you was that I am the alpha of the family. And I'm not going to say you quieted down, but that was probably the first time we ever expressed our emotional love for one another. And, well, I'm not going to say the first, but as adults, the first as adults that we
Mm-hmm.
actually told each other, and we said some pretty horrible things that day,
Yeah.
but it was things that had been manifesting on my mind, manifesting on your mind, and you know, we never spoke on it, you know, and just to elaborate, it wasn't easy having that conversation with you. It wasn't easy because I was not prepared to put my hands on it. Would I? Yes. Was I? I was hoping I didn't have to.
It's funny you say that because I remember the heat of that conversation. And as we walked outside, my thought was, oh my God, I hope I don't have to hurt my brother. Um, I was hot.
Oh,
I was,
I
I was,
I believe at that point in time we were both on the grill.
yeah. I was, well, kind of like you. I was ready, but I was hoping that I didn't have to. Um, and at that time, and I'm gonna be honest here. At that time, I was carrying two handguns with me regularly. And I remember sitting it on the table and daddy saying, not in my house. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah. Well, yours wasn't
Yeah,
the only one there because I left mine in the house as well.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
And it's funny because something changed from from the table to the door. I don't know what it was, but it was just like, hmm, that's my brother.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that was the pivotal point in our relationship. It's like at that point, I had to make the decision that whatever was said or whatever was done, I had to leave it in the moment that it was said or done.
Do you think that that was a good thing or a bad thing?
Um, I think it was a great thing.
I agree.
Um, it's probably something that should have been done years before. Um, it's like on that day, that night, is when I decided that I would be 10 toes down for my brother, even if he was wrong, even if what he was saying went against what I believed, I'd be 10 toes down. And I mean, don't get me wrong, since then, there's been times where I've been upset, I've been mad. But it's a decision that I make whenever something happens that I got to be 10 toes down because you're my brother.
Well, throughout our years in disagreements, I've always been 10 toes down for you.
Oh, don't get me wrong. Couldn't nobody come mess with you.
Oh, well, I'm sure, but I just,
Like,
I'm just letting you know.
there's a price to pay
Oh, yeah.
if anybody would come and do anything or say anything to you. But I think at that point, that's when it clicked of, even if I don't agree, even if it goes against what I say, I'm still on your side. And that's where I learned where I have to digress to you being the older brother. I complain sometimes about it. I get mad about it.
Well, I wish I could.
And I don't always agree. Huh?
I wish you could put on some of these shoes I got.
But you only got one.
Well, no, I have two now. I have two now. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was for me a pivotal point when I decided, and I knew that I had to keep deciding to follow, even at times when I want to lead. So I'm going to ask you: was that event the same for you, or was there a different time that?
There have been a number of times, but that particular event, I mean, we fought. We fought through the years, but we've never, ever fought to hurt one another. But that day, that particular day, I was not prepared to hurt you, but if I had to, I would. And it was really a point in my life that it was a disturbing decision because, one, if the situation would have progressed, I would have had to let you know that I am the older brother. If the situation would have progressed, I would have had to let you know that mentally and physically, I can take it all the way to the end. And I think it was only a blessing that Daddy at the time spoke to both of us before we walked outside.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly believe, had we not had that before we walked outside, I do believe that it probably would have been a turning point in both of our lives. You know?
Shout out to Mr. Jones.
Yeah. So when I tell you, a lot of people do not grow up in two-parent households. A lot of families are split or whatever the case may be. I have split family, and I've always raised all of my girls, my first set, my second set, and my third set, to know that it doesn't matter that your parents are different. It doesn't matter that this is a friend of the family, this is a cousin of the family. The word family is all that matters. That's the only thing that matters. So they'll tell you that family will cross you in the blink of an eye. And I've known this to be true. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. But I've always made up in my mind that regardless to whatever boundaries were crossed, I would always be the bigger person to make sure that family remained family.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me, because we're talking about sibling rivalry, we're talking about sibling hurt today. Where do you see us at now?
I think we are in a wonderful place now. You know, we've had some trials in the last year with our mom. We've had trials coming up. We've had opinion differences as far as, you know, our children, the way they're raised, or whatever the case may be. And I think now that we are in a fabulous place. I think now, you know, that one, we're adults, because as kids, you know, kids are they're mean, they're cruel, they say things.
Yeah.
You don't know as a child that what you say is going to scar somebody for life.
Yeah.
So it's not till you become an adult that you understand that words are dangerous. Words are more dangerous than guns. Words are more dangerous than knives.
There's power in words.
We have family members right now that do not talk over simple arguments. And to keep from being apart or having to pick a side, when I do encounter these members of the family, I say one of two things. If you're not going to be family, then don't talk to me about family situations. If you're not going to honor the word family, don't bring it up to me. Because if you're family, agreements, disagreements, they happen.
Yep.
People grow up, they have opinions. We had cousins that don't talk, grew up in the same home, they do not talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had to be the person to deliver the news to them that their youngest sister passed away. And the first thing they both said was, I wish we could have made it right. But you're here every day and you're still not talking to your siblings. You're still not talking to your mom. You only deal with certain people in the family. You know, and that's both sides. That's both sides.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't just the one, it's all.
Right.
You know. And I've been in family meetings or you know, situations where they go to bring it up and other members of the family will tell them, hey, don't speak on that. Not with Tiny. because you're not going to like the outcome. You know, I'm not going to pit myself against any family. I'm not going to be drawn into family disputes. Because your opinion is your opinion. You're an adult. Your opinion is your opinion. You're an adult. As adults, you're supposed to be able to come up with a conclusion. Because you cannot consider yourself an adult if you cannot. I tell
That's right.
my kids on a daily basis, your family is all that you have. Your sisters are all that you have. So, if you cannot be good with your sisters or speak to your sisters or go to your sisters when you're down, you're going to be alone.
I think what happens is that when these disputes arise, that one doesn't really know or understand what the other is actually going through at that time. And what happens is they will say something or do something that causes damage, and they don't know that they're causing the damage that's going on. And then a part of that is stubbornness comes into play to say, well, since they're not talking to me, I'm not going to talk to them. Right? And before long, weeks, months, years have gone in between conversations. And the crazy part is that no one can really remember what the initial argument was.
You and I touched on that the other day.
That's right.
We touched on that the other day. Miscommunication and lack of communication.
And even lack of comprehension,
Yes, definitely lack of comprehension.
lack of understanding what's actually being said and why it's being said.
Well, see, you have people that fear being attacked.
Mm-hmm.
I raise my children. You do know that your first set of bullies is your family, right?
I figured that out late in
Your
my
first,
adulthood, that I was
very,
bullied as a child.
your very first bullies are your family members.
That's right.
And I teach my daughters, whether you all have a disagreement, whatever the case may be, tomorrow is a new day.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing with your wife, the same thing with your mother, your father. You do not go into a new day dwelling on what happened in the past. You just don't. That's only going to bring complication, more misunderstanding, and now you're looking for alliances. I need you to be on my side and understand what I'm telling you. And the other person is on the same thing. I need you to be on my side. I need you to understand what I'm telling you. And the best information that I can give both sides is I dislike both of you equally. I love you unapologetically, but I dislike you both equally.
I think that to begin to repair that, I think one thing that we have to understand is that one, there's a couple of things, but the first thing is whatever the problem is, that's the problem. You're not the problem. The other person isn't the problem. The problem is the problem. That's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing I think that we have to understand in trying to fix this and trying to repair it is that the pain and the hurt that's normally caused is not meant to be caused. It's not meant to hurt in most cases, it's meant, what you're saying and what you're doing is meant to help. And it's taken the wrong way, or it's said the wrong way, or it's comprehended the wrong way. And you don't see or feel or hear, in a lot of cases, the love that's in it.
I agree. I agree with that
I know,
100%.
I know coming up, I didn't see the love or feel the love or hear the love in some of the things that you did or that you said. But in talking to you today, it was done in love. It was said in love. It was done to protect me. Right? And then the last thing that we have to understand is that we have to make the decision every day to look past the faults of those people that we love, because we ask them also to look past the faults that we have. And I think not a lot of people understand that,
Lack,
or
lack of accountability.
right, or are willing to willing to do that.
Yeah, lack of
Right?
accountability. Everybody,
Um,
everybody, regardless of the point, wants to be right and be heard.
yeah,
Not paying attention to the fact that you're over talking, but you're not listening.
that's right. That's right. There's a reason. I heard this a couple times throughout the years, from more than one person in our family. There's a reason that God gave you two ears and one mouth, right? For you to hear more than you speak. And not all of us take that into consideration. I'll be the first to stand on that platform and say that I've not always taken that into consideration.
Well,
But I'm ever evolving. I'm ever changing, and
I'm at a place
I'm
in my life where that is also changing for me as well.
yeah,
And once again, becoming a grandfather is my chance at picking up where I lacked with my children.
yeah,
And I think I did an okay job because none of them are helpless, homeless, or hungry.
that's right.
But, in their eyes, I wasn't the best at it. But once again, I was never in it for an award in the first place.
So what's funny is that I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about um, advice that we've given our children or decisions that we've made for and with our children. And the one thing that I figured out is that you can only do the best that you can do when you're doing it. Like I don't think any parent has ever made the decision for any one of their children saying, this is the worst decision ever. That's what you should do. Right? Every decision that I know that I've made has been done out of love, out of protection, out of wanting to see my children do better. But I've not always made the right decisions. Some of my decisions honestly have really been jacked up. And had I known the outcome of those decisions before I made that decision, I wouldn't have done it. But I made that decision with the information that I had, and I thought at that time it was the best decision ever.
Yeah, I'm guilty, 110%.
Yeah,
I figured if I never hid anything from my children about who I was and what I've done, I figured that they would understand. And I've basically given them the ammunition to distance themselves from me
Yeah.
because that's not something they want in their life. But what a lot of people don't realize, and I'm going to speak a little bit on Christ, because I'm not a real holy person, but a lot of people never really understood. They do not know that Michael is an angel for the
Mm-hmm.
Lord,
Mm-hmm.
but he does what the Lord is not able to do.
Mm.
It's put in his hands to make, to do the dirty work.
Mm.
And I've always lived my life based off of being Michael. My intentions have always been great for my family. How I had to provide was not the best. The things I had to do, the way they had to learn, the education that they received. But you have it. Learn how to use what I gave you to better your situation. Don't use it as a downfall.
You know what's funny? And so this is one of those reasons why I use the term polar opposites, right? But, as you mentioned earlier, it's individuality. But you've not hidden from your kids, and I've hidden so much. And it's funny how they desire the very opposite of what they've gotten.
Yeah.
It's ironic that, again, you've done one style, I've done another style, yet each have desired the very opposite of what they've received.
I heard a saying that every generation ruins the next generation. If you take a man who's never had and he provides and he gives, when his children grow up, they will learn to provide and give. And when they give it to their children won't appreciate what they done. So then they'll go back to being bums. And the cycle continues.
So here's the way that I've heard that very same thing. Hard times make strong men. Strong men make easy times. Easy times make weak men.
Yep.
And weak men make hard times.
Yep. It's a fact.
Yes, 100%.
It's a fact.
100%.
It's a fact.
So we are coming up on 58 minutes that we've been having this conversation. This is definitely going to
A
be
part two.
a two-part series. But I'd like to say that, man, I appreciate you being willing to, one, open up and have this discussion. That's the first thing. Two, being willing to come on the show to do that. It's one thing hashing out issues in private. Um, it's something completely different hashing out issues in public. And airing what some people might call dirty laundry. But I promise you, I believe that what we're doing here today, the conversation that we're having, is going to help somebody. It's going to change somebody's mind, and it's going to make somebody better, and closer to their children, their siblings, their parents, their cousins, somebody. So, man, thank you. I greatly appreciate you coming on. I'll give you 20 seconds. Last words, last thoughts.
I want to thank you for having me on the show. And I really want to thank you for bringing to my attention some of the things that, our past and the problems that we've had to make us the people we are today. And most of all, this platform that you're providing that's going to help people. It may not help people. It's going to help people. I think it's God sent. And I've told you 100 times that I'm not a limelight person. That's your field. And I'll back you 110% every time. So thank you for having me on your show.
Awesome. Well, you can consider yourself a friend of the show, a brother of mine, definitely. And again, 10 toes down for you. Just to let everybody know, y'all mess with him, y'all mess with me. It's gonna be some trouble in the air. And then lastly, I want to thank all my listeners for listening in today. This was definitely a big topic for me. And man, I pray that it touches somebody and brings them closer to their family.
It's definitely going to do that. That's what God created it for. So it's definitely, he's using his best tool. He's got you. So it's definitely going to reach. It's definitely going to reach some hearts.
No doubt. What comes from the heart reaches the heart. Alrighty, so that's it for this episode of Stronger Than the Rest. You guys can catch us online at www.strongerthantherest.com. You can catch us on YouTube, Amazon Radio, Apple Radio, Audible, all the big hits for podcasts. We're on there. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Moving forward, we're going to be offering specialized in content that can only be accessed by subscribers. So make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Catch us on the next episode of Stronger Than the Rest. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Stronger Than the Rest, hosted by Juan R. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you never miss an episode or a conversation.